to Unveiled Living. My name is Tracee and this is Heart Talk. If you can tell, we're still here sitting out on the porch in the North Carolina mountains. And I just said that with a southern drawl because it's just so beautiful here. So last week we did an episode that I'm calling God is in the Details. And so I wanted to continue with that because I've got several stories that have happened, actually a lot of stories in my life that have happened that have been talking about God being in the details. And so if you haven't had a chance to watch it, I would encourage you to go back and check out part 1 of this series that we're doing on the finite details of our lives. So this week I want to talk about something that we tend to forget. Sometimes I think that we can get so caught up in our lives and thinking that there are so many little things going on in our lives that surely God is not aware, maybe doesn't care, maybe, doesn't have time to really focus on the little things that really matter to us. And you know what? Some things might not even be, you're wondering how you're going to pay your next mortgage, payment. How are you going to pay your car payment? How are you going to put food on the table? I'm even going beyond that. Sometimes it's about a particular boat that you love and that you really wanted, but you just, weren't sure if you should go and get it, and you were waiting on the timing and if God was going to provide that, or maybe if it was a particular article of clothing that you've loved. I think sometimes we forget God cares about everything, even down to the pair of shoes that you're wearing or a pair of earrings that you're wearing. He cares about those things because, if it's something that we love, then we forget He loves it too. He gave us the desires of who we are and what makes us who we are. And so I want to share a story about a pair of turquoise shoes because I want you to understand God cares about even a pair of turquoise shoes. Because when we begin to understand that if God cares about these things, then how much more would He care about making sure that you can pay your mortgage, or you can pay your rent, or you can pay for your car, or you can put food on your table? Because He's already promised us, don't worry about that. I've got that. If I take care of the lilies of the field, then how much more am I going to take care of you, whom I love? So let's get back to these turquoise shoes. What's up with that? So for a couple of years, if you've known me, and everybody, if you're watching and you've known me for years, you know that one of my all-time favorite things to own are shoes. I love shoes. Now, not to make you all panic, I actually have the least amount of shoes that I've ever had in my entire life. I've been doing a lot of, getting rid of, but because I'm really not wearing the high heels anymore, I'm come to the stage of wearing more flats. But, okay, so back to these shoes. So for several years, this is back in mid-2000s, for some reason, I had it out that I wanted a pair of turquoise wedge high heel shoes. That was not a common actual shoe, actually. Wedges weren't really actually in at that point, but I've always loved a wedge heel. And the color turquoise was actually really popular at that time. So I went on a hunt for several years looking for a pair of turquoise wedge shoes, and I never ever found them. So one particular day, I was driving into Johnson City, Tennessee, we lived in Bristol at the time. And I was driving into Johnson City, and all I had was $100 to go and get some clothes. The kids were starting school, and I needed, school clothes, and I needed a couple of other things, for the house. And so I remember getting in my car and I was driving, and I remember praying this, okay, Father, all I have is $100. I need to get some clothes for Jacob. I need some clothes for Caleb, and I need some clothes for my husband. And so where do I go? And in my heart, I really felt like, go to Kohl's. I'm like, all right, I'm going to Kohl's. So I get to Kohl's and I walk in, and it was one of those days where everything I was doing, I was literally like, okay, Lord, where do I go first? Where do I go next? What do I do? What do I do? So I went to those areas, children's area, and I was able to get Jacob the clothes that I needed. I mean, everything was on clearance, and it was ridiculous sale prices. So I'm like, whoa, I think I got out of, that department for $17. All right, I still have, $83 left. And so I go over and I get some clothes for Caleb, and then I go over and I get some dress shirts for my husband at the time. And then I'm actually almost up to $100. And I'm about to I did it. I got everything I needed, for $100. And I was about to go check out. And in my spirit, I heard, go to the shoe department. And I remember thinking, and I literally said, and I knew it was the Lord speaking to me. And I was like, Lord, and it's funny, don't you love it how we try to tell Him, what we think? Lord, I don't have anything on my list for shoes. And I heard it again. Go to the shoe department. And I'm thinking, I don't have any shoes on my list, but you know what? I feel like I'm supposed to go, so I'm going to go to the shoe department. So I get to the shoe section of Kohl's, and honestly, I stood there for a couple of seconds, still perplexed, and asking the Lord, why am I here? I don't have any shoes on my list. So then in my spirit, all of a sudden, I just felt like I need to go look for myself. I need to go look for shoes for me. But then I was like, Lord, I don't need any shoes. I really don't get this. But I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go look and see if I can find a pair of shoes. I don't know what shoes I'm looking for, but I'm going to go look. So I head over to the clearance section, which is always the area that I go to first in any store, is the clearance section. So I walk over there, and that day was a really unusual day because they had so many shoes on clearance that it not only took over the little corner of Kohl's, but it took over the aisle, the main aisle. There were rows of just shoes everywhere. And the other odd thing that I noticed was it's very rare that I ever find a lot of size 10s, because girl, that's what I am, is a size 10. And so a lot of times those are really, really picked over. So this particular day, when I looked and I went over to that area there in the aisle, there were a ton of size 10 shoes on clearance. So I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to start opening. Like, hey, girl doesn't love, who doesn't love shoes? So I get over there and I start opening up the boxes. Oh my goodness. Had I had $100 extra, I probably would have walked out of there with another 10 pairs of shoes because they had so many cool looking shoes. But I'm opening up the boxes and I'm actually looking at them. And like I said, I could have walked out with a lot of different pairs of shoes, but I knew that I only had a certain amount of money. I was like around $97, $96 is what I had already spent. And so obviously I only had a couple of dollars more to go towards whatever pair of shoes I was looking for. So I'm opening up, I'm like, no, that's not it. I'm looking up, nope. And then all of a sudden, I open up a box. And guess what's inside that box? A pair of turquoise wedge high heel shoes. And they had a little bit of a satin look to them. And I'm thinking to myself, no way. Are you kidding me? So I try them on, and it's kind of, I know it's really dumb and so simple because it's a pair of shoes, but it tears me up because in that moment, I just was jaw dropped. I had been looking for several years. It wasn't something I needed. It was just something I wanted and all, but it wasn't so dire that I had to have them. And I was willing to, if I never got them, I was okay with that. But in that particular moment, I realized, oh my goodness, I put them on and I felt like Cinderella because the shoe fit. And then here was the real test. And then I thought, oh my goodness, I felt a little panic because I'm like, I found my turquoise shoes, but how much are they going to be? And I turn the box and I look over at the side. $3. They only were $3. I literally got so overwhelmed emotionally that I was like, Lord, you did this for me. You knew that those shoes were there. I didn't understand why you called me to the shoe department. But now I know why you called me to the shoe department, because he knew those shoes that I wanted all these years, they were there in a box. I just had to go find them. So I walked out spending my $100 budget and I got my $3 pair of shoes. I don't wear them anymore, but I will never get rid of those shoes because it's my reminder that God cares about every single detail in my life and in your life. So as I wrap up, I want you to know one thing. It doesn't matter how minute your need or desire, whatever it is in your life. God cares about every single detail, down to a turquoise pair of shoes. Until next time.